We have reached the final game week of the season, and of course we've had some curveballs thrown at us with injuries to Alexander Isak and Saliba, and also question marks about the motivation of teams going into this final game week. And as always, in today's video I will be talking about my transfer plans and importantly the players that I'm looking to buy, in particular Isak replacements. So as always, if you're looking forward to this video, make sure to drop a like, and of course it is never too late to subscribe to the channel. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, a quick recap on how game week 37 is going so far, because of course we do still have 3 matches left to play, and I do have 5 players, hopefully if they do feature, still to hopefully rack up double-digit returns. We got Mo Salah in tonight's game, and then we got the Palace duo of Munoz and Sarr, and then we got the Man City duo of Vardy and Kevin De Bruyne. Of course, the final game for Kevin De Bruyne at the Etihad, but game week 37 as a whole has actually been a fantastic game week. So I ended up scoring 47 points. However, Isak decided not to turn up. So I will be getting the 7 points from Kivior, which, to be honest with you, when I saw Isak was out, I was praying for an Arsenal clean sheet, both for FPL and as a Chelsea fan. So that worked out lovely. 7 points coming off the bench for a total of 54 points. When we quickly go through some of the returners, Martinez with the 6-pointer, Villa really just grinding out results right now, and I'm expecting the same thing in game week 38. Consul with the 15-pointer, I mean, nobody can anticipate a centre-back scoring, but he has been a real source of attack and returns at times whenever I've started him, and I'm delighted to pick up the 15 points as well. In terms of the midfielders, talk about swings. Mbeumo with an early goal in that game, which looked fantastic, steps up for a penalty and ends up missing -2 and effectively just getting the 5 points for the goal. In another world, he scores the penalty and probably looking at a 15-point haul, 20-point swing for those that captained him. It is what it is. You can't control penalty misses. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, in this game week, especially for those managers that went for Ollie Watkins, that was a big swing for my team, and unfortunately probably what stopped me getting a top 30k finish. Rodgers with the 6-pointer, and that is it. And then, of course, up top, finally, we have Vissa back in the team. I brought him back last week. He's been my MVP all season. I sold him around game week 24. He's continued to do well, and thankfully he has delivered once again. 10-pointer, and really the icing on the cake this game week. As I discussed, I have uncertainties about both Munoz and Sarr. Looking at my bench, I really do need them both to play because I have no real players to fall back on this game week. In terms of De Bruyne and Vardy, personally, I'm expecting them both to start. Let me know how you got on in the comment section so far. I did roll my transfer, so I do now have 2 going into game week 38. So taking a first look at my game week 38 team, it's quite a sad time actually, saying this is the last time looking at my transfer plans. But we need to be positive about all things, and one thing that isn't positive going into game week 38, of course, is the situation with Alexander Isak. Now, we haven't had an official confirmation, but it sounds like Isak had some sort of tweak with his hamstring, and they didn't want to take the risk going into game week 37. Not ideal in preparation for a game at home against Everton, which is basically a must-win. And a team of Newcastle's calibre, with and without Isak, is just a massive drop-off. I thought Newcastle actually put in a great performance against Arsenal, especially in the first half, but Isak is just such a level above Callum Wilson that I think if Isak is in any position that he can play, I think he will play. Now, I want to say firstly with Alexander Isak is that all games kick off at the same time on Sunday, and 2:30 PM is the deadline. We might get some update regarding them going into the deadline, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that situation because historically, Newcastle team leaks haven't been great. So we might be on our own here making the decision on whether to sell Isak or not. But in terms of my team, 2 free transfers, 0.9 million in the bank. There's no world I make a goalkeeper or defensive transfer, especially when I have the options available to me. Raya away against Southampton, great, and Kivior away against Southampton. Got to be honest, could we see a curveball and maybe Kivior benched? Possibly. The reason why I'm optimistic is because, of course, Saliba went off with a slight hamstring injury and Calaflori came in at centre-back. I would anticipate Calaflori and Kivior playing with one another in a centre-back partnership, but maybe I'm being a bit hopeful there. Livramento home against Everton is great, and Vardy out and Konsa with away games I think is perfectly fine. Man City needs to get the job done. Villa needs to get the job done. I don't really look at either of those teams and think they're going to put in a bad performance. In terms of my midfielders, Mo Salah, fantastic, and even a captaincy shout. De Bruyne, bit of a problem away against Fulham. I just think the fixture isn't fantastic from an attacking perspective, so that's something to consider. Mbeumo away against Wolves, perfectly fine. And Rodgers away against Man United 4 days after a Europa League final. Thank you very much. That is a fantastic game. In terms of the front two, we got Vissa away against Wolves. Again, I could just see goals in that game, to be honest with you, so I think that's perfectly fine. And then, of course, we've got the issue with Isak on the bench. Martinez away against Man United, which actually could be a starter in this team, but you have to play your Arsenal defence. Munoz away against Liverpool, Mateta away against Liverpool, and Sarr. So I've basically benched all of my Crystal Palace players naturally just because of the fixture, and also what is the motivation going to be for Crystal Palace after winning that FA Cup final? Are they basically going to be on the beach now? I really do rate Oliver Glasner. I think he can get this team motivated, but can he do so in this final game of the season? I just don't see it. Now, looking at my team right now, I'm going to be honest, it was a very simple move for me going into this week. De Bruyne out for Saka, and I was going to sell Mateta to bring in Evan Nielsen. Target the Southampton game, target the Leicester game. But now coming to the final game week of the season, of course, we've had a bit of a curveball with Alexander Isak that we need to address. And I also am starting to question, what is that Arsenal motivation going to be on the final game? I think regardless if they put in 50% effort, they probably do walk away with a comfortable victory. But I want the game that has the potential of 4 or 5 goals. And could we see a maybe rotated Arsenal team in that week? Possibly. So we're going to talk about the players that I'm considering now, but I just want to give you a first glance on how my team's looking for game week 38. So if we do get the news that Alexander Isak is ruled out for game week 38, then we got to look at some replacements. And regardless of my team, I am looking at a forward replacement. Now, it's worth noting, if you don't have Ollie Watkins, you have double Villa, not triple, then I still think Ollie Watkins is a great buy. Man United, 4 days afterwards, have to play an Aston Villa team chasing top 5 for Champions League. I think that's a great buy, and he did have opportunities in that Spurs game. It just didn't land for him. So I think Watkins is great. For me, though, I'm just not going to go there. I had the opportunity in game week 37 to pivot my team. I chose not to, and that basically meant that I was going in a different direction, and I'm more than happy to do so personally. And really right now with my overall rank, I do think this is an opportunity, if we need to actually go a bit aggressive. Some managers want to consolidate rank. If you're sat there in the top 10k, I totally understand it. But for me, I want to finish the best I possibly can. And if I just go for simple, safe moves, I don't really think I have that opportunity. Hence why I've got these 3 players on the screen. And I really think there is opportunities here for all 3. So first we've got Evan Nielsen at the cheapest, 5.8 million, Cunha at 7.1, and then Havertz, probably the first time he's been in these videos all season, at 7.7 million. Now again, when we take a look at the fixtures, all of these have standout games. Bournemouth at home against Leicester, they had that emotional game in game week 37. I just don't see a reason why Leicester have to turn up in this game. I just think they're going to be on the beach officially now. They had to play for that home game. Now I think they are on the beach. Arsenal away against Southampton, again, a fantastic fixture on paper, but now Arsenal have wrapped up their Premier League campaign in terms of a finish. I see no reason why they could see some rotation in that Arsenal team, give some minutes to some players who you might not see in an Arsenal team once again. So I'm not bullish on a big Arsenal score here, or if you do get a big Arsenal score, where those points are officially going to come from. And then we got Wolves at home against Brentford again. Could we possibly see Wolves put in a final performance under Vitor Pereira going into their last game of the season? Now, in terms of the keynotes here, Evan Nielsen for me is a fantastic buy because he's only 4% owned, which I was really surprised to see. And I think he does have the standout game week 38 fixture at home. Leicester, absolutely nothing to play for. My only question is, where are Bournemouth at right now? They have nothing to play for. Could we see a bit of a lackluster Bournemouth performance? Possibly, but the fact is at home, final home game of the season, I think could supersede that. Then we got Cunha's possible final Wolves game for them. Again, nothing from Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that he's moving anywhere, but the rumours are generating that he could go to Man United. I think from an attacking perspective, the Brentford game is actually really good, and I could see some returns from Cunha in that game, but I'm a little bit worried about what actually could happen with Cunha. Could we see 50 minutes and then rotated out of the squad? Could we see a bit of a farewell situation from him? I don't really know. So I'm not bullish on Cunha, even though I do think he's a great differential. It's just a little bit too much uncertainty for me. And then finally we got Kai Havertz, who returned off the bench in game week 37. Obviously at 7.7 million. If he was playing throughout the entire season, I do think he's a fantastic pick. But we'll consider that for next season. At 6% owned, I think that's great. And I think the fixture's great. But there is a chance that he is on the bench. Now, if we do get early news that he's starting before the deadline, then I think I could be very tempted to go to Kai Havertz. But as of right now, he's 4% owned. Best fixture, I think Evan Nielsen is the standout forward. Regardless if Isak is ruled out or not, I think I will do Mateta to Evan Nielsen. It seems template based on the content creation world, but in terms of the general game, 4% owned, yes, that will go up, but I think there's a reason why he is the standout pick for everybody right now. Now, as I mentioned, De Bruyne for me is probably going to be a sell in game week 38 with my second free transfer. Now, I could see something incredible in game week 37 and that might tempt me to keep him. And again, if Man City need to win that game, which they will do I view De Bruyne as a key player for them? I do. So De Bruyne isn't a guaranteed sell for me, but I do think there are some great alternatives out there in the game. And the three that we're looking at right now are going to include Anthony Gordon, Jarrod Bowen, and Bukayo Saka. Now, again, before this game week, I think everybody was clear. Bring in Bukayo Saka. He is the best player for game week 38 and a captaincy pick. But we need to understand why that might be changing as a bit of a narrative right now. So, as we've spoken about, Arsenal, incredible fixture away against Southampton. But again, what are we actually going to see from Arsenal? Bukayo Saka plays every game. We know that when he does return. But when we look at it here, he's actually had no attack and return in the Premier League in the last 7 matches. And he came off slightly early in that game against Newcastle, I believe around the 75th minute. Could we possibly see some minutes for Ethan Nwaneri coming around the 60th minute, Saka coming off? I wouldn't rule that out at all. So I'm less bullish on Bukayo Saka as a pick because I just don't really know what those minutes are going to be like and what that motivation is going to be like for Arsenal in general. And that's why I do think these two players have stood up recently for differing reasons. Anthony Gordon at 7.4 million and Jarrod Bowen at 7.8. So let's first talk about Anthony Gordon. 8% owned in the game, I think, is great. Started the last 2 league matches, so I think he's definitely back in Eddie Howe's best 11. And it's a must-win game for Newcastle, and goal difference actually could mean something. Everton, coming off the back of that Goodison Park game, I'm not expecting a great Everton performance here. And if Alexander Isak is going to be ruled out, bringing in someone like Anthony Gordon would give you that Newcastle attacking player that you might not have with Isak being out. So I really do like Gordon as a pick. However, we haven't seen those attack and returns yet. And that is the only thing that I'm hesitant about right now. But as an FPL pedigree player, I love Gordon. I just need to ask myself, if Isak is out of this Newcastle team, does that then just massively hinder them as an attack? I saw good things in the first half against Arsenal to suggest they can continue to put up good performances. But the form man right now, and I wrote that there, is going to be Jarrod Bowen. 6 attack and returns in the last 5 league matches and a really good fixture away against Ipswich. The problem is, West Ham are just playing poor under Graham Potter. Now, it's worth noting, that might be a bit of a poor assessment because I think they had a lot of big chances in that game in game week 37. But regardless, it's not like they're playing games where they are scoring 4, 5, 6 goals. The thing that is in Jarrod Bowen's favour is that even though that isn't happening, when they do score goals, he's involved. It is the definition of a talisman. And I do feel like going into the last game week of the season, even though the ceiling for someone like a Saka could be higher, I know what I'm getting from Jarrod Bowen. And I feel like maybe that is the direction that I want to go in. The problem is, that is the template player right now. Jarrod Bowen's being bought by a lot of people and he got bought by a lot previously. So I need to ask myself, should I just stick with the template and understand he is the best player? Or do I go slightly different and go for someone like an Anthony Gordon who could offer amazing value and 8% owned gives me that rank rise that potentially is needed in game week 38. As of right now, I am actually leaning towards Anthony Gordon, but only if Alexander Isak is ruled out. I don't know if I want to double up on Newcastle attack when I have the opportunity to maybe get an Arsenal attacker, but I do love the Gordon pick right now, controversially. So after discussing all of those different types of players that we can buy for game week 38, I want to just show you a few different combinations that I am considering going into the final game week. And of course, it is going to depend on what sort of early team news we may or may not get. I think that's going to really dictate certain decisions. Now, as we discussed, if we're going to go down the very, very template move, then it's very simple for me. It is going to be Kevin De Bruyne out, and it is going to be Mateta out for Evan Nielsen. And I'm going to be honest with you, if we do get a lot of consistent team leaks before the deadline, then my team most likely will look like this. It is very template from that sense, and does it actually gain me rank? Possibly not, but we look at someone like an Evan Nielsen at 4% owned right now. I think that is absolutely fantastic. That will go up to around 8%, I imagine, by the time we get there. And in terms of Bukayo Saka, he is actually only 13% owned. I think if we get the news that he is starting, I'm going to find it very, very difficult not to do De Bruyne to Saka. I'm sat here right now talking about Gordon, I'm talking about Bowen, but I do think if Saka is starting, I think I will go there and the team will look like this. But of course, it isn't all just simple. Lots of things can change. So if we get the news that Alexander Isak is ruled out and I want to pivot slightly different on my team, then, for example, what we could look to do is sell Alexander Isak and bring in Evan Nielsen, as we discussed. I still think he is my standout pick this week. And then what I could do is, if I don't love the idea of Saka, and I'm not bullish on Gordon because let's say Isak is ruled out and that just hinders whether I think Newcastle are going to score more goals or not, then I could look to actually go really aggressive with some differentials and maybe even look to do Mateta out and bring in the Kai Havertz move if Kai Havertz is starting for Arsenal. And I would need to have very, very clear confirmation that Havertz is actually starting for Arsenal. And it would mean me doing a double forward move, but the team would then look like this going into game week 38. Now, do I prefer this or the previous team? And I do prefer having Bukayo Saka, but if we get the news that Saka is not in the team for some reason and Havertz is starting and Isak is out, then my team could then look like this for game week 38. Sorry, I would start Livramento there. And I do like this team as well. So there's lots of different ways that I can go, but the first team that I showed you is probably the way I'm going to land, because even though Saka's template, seeing him at less than 20% owned actually looks like an opportunity. And sometimes I need to ask myself, am I overthinking a decision? And I think I might be. So I'm hoping we get Arsenal news before the deadline. Of course, I will be doing a deadline live stream for probably like 2-3 hours on the final day. So make sure you are obviously following the channel, but let me know what your plans will be with this team and what your current plans are. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's video looking at my Game Week 38 transfer plans, the final one of the season. I'm looking to do daily videos in the lead up to the final game week. We'll see if there's enough content to do so. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do consider dropping a like and of course, hitting that subscribe button. It's never too late. Any questions, please do put them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them. Have a great day and I'll see you real soon. Take care. Cheers.